They say time heals all wounds. But when you've lived 50 years alongside someone, time becomes something else entirely. It becomes the sound of her footsteps in the kitchen, the aroma of the coffee she brewed at 6 in the morning, her laughter echoing through the living room. When Helena left, time didn't stop. What stopped was the soundtrack to my life. What remained was silence. And silence, my friends, can be a cruel companion. My name is Antonio. I'm 75 years old. And today, I'm going to tell you about the biggest mistake of my life. A mistake born of love and fear, which everyone around me applauded as the most sensible decision. I opened the doors of my home, my sanctuary, to my family, thinking I was banishing loneliness. Little did I know I was merely exchanging one visible loneliness for another, far more insidious one, the loneliness of being invisible. If you've ever felt like a stranger in your own life, or fear that might happen, stay with me. What I'm about to reveal might be the difference between growing old and simply fading away. If my journey resonates with you, give me a sign. Write in the comments, your voice matters, Antonio. Knowing I'm not talking into the void gives me strength. The first few months were a blur. I shuffled through the house we'd built together. Every object, a memory. Her armchair, still bearing the indentation of her body. The book she'd left on the bedside table, with the bookmark on page 42. I spoke to her, as if she was still there. Helena, look what the neighbor did to the rose bushes. And the silence answered me. My son, Ricardo, called every day. Dad, did you eat? Did you take your medicine? Elite. Everything's fine, son. But the truth was, I was eating bread and butter for dinner and sometimes forgot whether it was Tuesday or Saturday. The house, our pride and joy, reflected my soul, dusty, neglected. The idea, the fateful idea, was born from a stumble. Literally. I tripped over the living room rug. It was nothing. I didn't even fall. But when I told Ricardo, I heard the panic in his voice. Dad, what if you hit your head? What if you're found hours later? I can't live with this fear anymore. His concern, so genuine, planted the seed. That night, the silence of the house seemed to scream. I looked at the walls and saw only a future of isolation and decay. It was then, in an act of desperation disguised as genius, that I made the proposal myself. My son, I said into the phone, my voice thick. Your mother wouldn't want to see me like this. The house is huge. Why don't you come live with me? Think about it. You get out of rent, the kids get a backyard that goes on forever, and I get my life back. On the other end, a stunned silence, followed by an animated murmur. Claudia, you won't believe what my dad just offered. They loved it. Everyone loved it. My bowls mates gave me pats on the back. That's the way, Antonio. A true patriarch, looking after his own. I felt noble, useful. A man who, even in grief, could still provide. Little did I know I was signing the contract for my own erasure. Their arrival was like the first rain after a long drought. The house came back to life. The sound of the TV, my grandsons Leo and Tiago's silly squabbles, the smell of food in the oven. It was music. I felt like the luckiest grandfather in the world. Grandpa, can you help me build this Lego? Grandpa, can you push me on the swing? Each request was an affirmation. I was needed. I was loved. The first few weeks were a honeymoon. We all had dinner together. I'd tell stories from my youth. They'd talk about school, work. Claudia, my daughter-in-law, would always bring me a plate. Sue Antonio, try this. Do you think it needs more salt? I felt respected. But the honeymoon, like all honeymoons, ends. And routine, the true face of cohabitation, begins to show itself. The first crack appeared subtly. Dad, Ricardo said one day, since you're home, can you wait for the internet guy? I have a meeting I can't reschedule. Of course, my son. A simple request. The following week, Sue Antonio, since you're going to the bakery anyway, can you pick up some bread for us? Of course, Claudia. No problem. They were small favors, drops in the ocean. But the drops, day after day, start to fill the bucket. Dad, I'm going to leave Leo's bike here, okay? It might rain outside and the garage is already full. But, son, this is my workspace. Just for a little while, Dad. Until we get better organized. Thanks. The better organized never arrived. In no time, my workshop, my sanctuary, became a storage space. Ricardo's gardening tools, toys that didn't fit in the children's room, the surfboard he hadn't used in 10 years. My sacred space was gradually invaded, centimeter by centimeter. And I said nothing. How could I complain about a bicycle when they had given me the joy of their company? The turning point was the kitchen. Claudia is a good woman, but overwhelmed. One day, she arrived home from work exhausted. "Sue Antonio, it's wonderful you're here. I'm dead on my feet. What do you think about making that pasta of yours today? The children miss it." What began as an affectionate request soon became a pattern. Before long, the question wasn't "what do you think about making it?" but rather "what's for dinner?" Before I knew it, I was the head chef, the shopper, the dishwasher. I, who always cooked for pleasure, was now cooking out of obligation. And the food, no matter how well seasoned, started to carry a bitter taste of duty. Antonio is in the kitchen, wearing an apron, cooking. He hears his family laughing in the living room, watching a movie. He looks at them for a moment, and his face reveals a profound loneliness. One episode, in particular, broke me. It was a Thursday. I was in my workshop, having finally cleared a space on the workbench to work. I was repairing an old wall clock for a friend, a task that demanded absolute concentration. The tiny gears, the delicate springs. It was my meditation. Ricardo walked in, phone to his ear, gesturing 1 minute. He hung up and said, hurriedly, "Dad, Claudia had a last-minute issue. I need you to pick the boys up from school in half an hour." I looked at the minuscule parts scattered before me. "Son, I can't stop this now. If I lose the sequence." He glanced at my workbench with visible impatience. "Dad, with all due respect, this is just a hobby, isn't it? A pastime. The kids can't wait on the street. You can get back to it later." The way he said hobby, pastime, as if it were child's play, something without value. That hurt me deeply. It was my passion, my art, what kept my mind sharp. And to him, it was merely something to fill my idle hours. I put away my tools with trembling hands. That day, I didn't just lose the sequence for the clock repair. I lost the sense of who I was to my own son. From then on, the decline was swift. I became part of the furniture, a utility. My opinion was no longer sought, and when offered, it was met with condescension. One evening, at dinner, I remarked that Tiago, my eldest grandson, was very withdrawn, always on his video game. Ricardo smiled. That smile you give a stubborn child. "Dad, times have changed. We read about these things. We know how to handle them. It's his generation." The message was clear. You're from the past. Your ideas are obsolete. Just serve the dinner. I'd lost control of my own home. The loud music I disliked, the TV channel I didn't watch, my grandchildren's friends running and shouting without any consideration. I, who had always cherished the peace of my home, now lived in a state of constant chaos. And the worst part was the loneliness. I was surrounded by people all day, yet I felt lonelier than ever. Because the loneliness I felt before was the absence of people. The one I felt now was the absence of myself. Antonio is trying to read the newspaper in the living room. The grandchildren are playing a noisy game on TV. He sighs, folds the newspaper, and retreats silently to his bedroom. No one seems to notice. The breaking point, the moment the dam finally burst, came on a Wednesday. Wednesday was sacred bocce ball day. It was more than a game. It was my link to my friends, to the outside world, to the Antonio who existed before all this. I was ready. Team uniform, the bag with the polished balls, the smell of the grass already in my mind. I was at the door, putting on my shoes, when Ricardo intercepted me. "Dad, I'm glad I caught you. Claudia woke up with a terrible migraine. She can't even get up. And I have that work trip to finalize today, remember? I need you to look after the boys. It's just for today." I looked at him. I looked at my bocce ball bag, and I saw all the just for todays from the past 2 years parading before me. All the times I'd given in, swallowed my pride, tucked my desires away. And something, finally, snapped. A cold calm washed over me. The calm of someone who has nothing left to lose.
No. No.
"What do you mean, no?" "No, my son. I can't today. I have my commitment." "Commitment? Dad, this is a game. Claudia is sick. I need to work. This is a family emergency. Antonio stands up, looks his son in the eye. For the first time in years, he doesn't look away. Ricardo, my mental health has also become a family emergency. I'm disappearing within my own home. You are two healthy adults, plus Claudia who is unwell today. I'm sure you can find a solution that doesn't involve, for the 100th time, negating the only commitment that is still mine. I'm going to my game. I left the house without looking back. My legs were trembling. My heart was pounding uncontrollably. But for the first time in 2 years, I felt the air entering my lungs. I didn't play well that day. My mind was racing. But every ball I threw was an act of rebellion. It was an affirmation that I still existed. The conversation that night. The living room is tense. Claudia, now feeling better, Ricardo, and Antonio are seated. It's the first time they've sat down to discuss a problem, rather than just skirting around it. The ensuing conversation was the most difficult and most necessary of my life. There were tears, accusations. You were selfish, Dad. We only have you. The kids missed you. I heard it all. And when they finished, I spoke. I spoke of my loneliness, my workshop, my diminished hobby, my disregarded opinion. I spoke not as a victim, but as a man reclaiming his space. I didn't call them to live with me to become an employee. I called them to share life. And sharing is a two-way street. I love you more than anything, but to continue loving healthily, I need to exist. This house has an owner, and he needs his life back. It wasn't a magic solution. It took time. Weeks of awkwardness, of trial and error. I created a calendar and put it on the fridge door. On it were my schedules: Grandpa's workshop, 2 p.m. to 4 p.m. Bocce, Wednesdays, 3 p.m. Newspaper reading, 8 a.m. to 9 a.m. At first, they found it ridiculous, but I stood firm. If I was in the workshop, I wasn't available. If it was time for my newspaper, the living room TV stayed on low volume. And the miracle happened. They adapted. Ricardo started sharing chores with Claudia. They learned to plan, to hire a babysitter when they needed one. The children learned that Grandpa's space was sacred. They didn't lose a do-it-all grandfather. They gained a real grandfather. A man with stories, with passions, with a life of his own that he could now genuinely share. Antonio is in his workshop, teaching his youngest grandson, Leo, how to sand a small piece of wood. The wall clock, repaired, ticks away perfectly in the background. Ricardo watches from the doorway, a smile of respect on his face. The house is at peace, not in silence, but in harmony. Today, my home is no longer filled with noise, it's filled with life. A life where everyone has their space, their value. My relationship with my family has never been stronger, because it is no longer based on my usefulness, but on mutual respect. I am not the grandpa who fixes things. I am Antonio, father, grandfather, friend, amateur watchmaker, and a mediocre bocce player. The message I want to leave, from the bottom of my heart, is this: getting older isn't an invitation to retire from life. It's a promotion. You gain the wisdom and the right to finally be the protagonist of your own story. Don't sell your freedom for fear of loneliness. Embrace solitude, which is the good company of yourself. True happiness at our age isn't having a full house, it's having a peaceful soul. Your identity is your most precious asset. Never let it become a footnote in someone else's story. If you like this video, give it a like, leave a comment, and share it with your friends and family. See you in the next video.